Only about 30% of all bank branches are in rural areas where over 60% of India's population lives. This one data point shows the major gap in access to formal sources of credit and dependence on informal money lenders in the country's rural markets and even in Tier 2, 3 markets. Piramal Finance is attempting to bridge this divide through its products, media strategies and marketing initiatives that break conventional perceptions about credit access. Joining me in the studio today are Jairam Sridharan, Managing Director of Piramal Finance, and the company's Chief Marketing Officer, Arvind Iyer, who are here to help us understand how this customer and how brands like Piramal Finance are addressing the diverse financing needs of the underserved and unserved people of the Bharat market. Hello and welcome to CNBC TV18, gentlemen.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
So, Jairam, Arvind, I want to get straight into it by asking you a very foundational question here. Piramal Finance, of course, is very laser focused on the Bharat market. So, let me begin first by asking you how you define the Bharat market. What does it constitute? I'll come to you, Jairam, first. What define the Bharat market according to the Piramal Finance playbook?
Yeah, you're right. Like Bharat is such a all-inclusive term. People can make anything out of it. We use a particular term internally. About our customers? We call them the budget customers of Bharat. So it's kind of a sub-segment of the overall the Bharat story. What we mean by that is kind of geographically. First of all, these are customers who are in the outskirts or live on the outskirts of big cities. Never kind of in the heart of the city, or they live in Tier 2 and Tier 3 towns, right? So that's number one. Number two is they're not holding down a formal white-collar job, usually, right? They are either in the informal sector in terms of salaried jobs, or they are usually self-employed, right? So that's the second element. From an income perspective, they usually make somewhere between 20 and 70,000 rupees at the upper end, with both the husband and wife working. So the cumulative income is somewhere around that number, right? So that's the segment. This segment we have found is highly underserved in the market. India is predominantly a self-employed market. 80% of employment in India is self-employment.
Right.
However, banks and many formal financial services institutions predominantly serve the salaried customer, right? You'll routinely hear banks talk about how 80% of their home loans business is to salaried customers, or 85% or 90%, and there's kind of a little bit of a competition on how high you can go on that number. But only 20% of the employed workforce in India is salaried, which essentially means that all these services are being directed at exactly that 20%, right? And all the rest is getting ignored. That's the market we at Piramal have been attempting to serve.
While we talk about, just decode this customer a little bit more, Jairam, let's get into their mind space, their head space a little bit, right? Because of course, credit access has been a huge problem statement. How do you sort of break down those barriers? What is sort of holding them back? What are some of the insights then, those insights then feed into your product strategies, your service strategies, retail, marketing? So break down what they are thinking.
While there are a lot of issues here, the one big thing, if I could point out, was the feeling in this customer's mind, कि हमें loan कौन देगा? That's the core idea that these guys carry in their minds, this customer set carries in their mind. They essentially think, hey, I don't have a steady job. I don't have any bank statements which are kind of worth talking about. I don't have any great paperwork of the house that I live in. I can't show you any tax returns of 3 years. If you ask me, show me my business numbers for 2 years of this little shop that I'm running. I have nothing. I don't have a CA that works with me. Like, I don't have anything. So why and how would a bank even talk to me? So in many ways, this is a customer set that lives within the confines that have been created by this question of hame loan kaun dega, and they have in some sense rejected themselves from the formal financial services sector. These are not customers who are going knocking doors of banks, right, and going to 10 different banks and everybody is rejecting them and they are feeling bad about it. They are literally customers who have not gone to any bank. I routinely see our home loan customers come in to us. I look at their application form and I realize this is literally the first loan they have applied for, or the first home loan they have applied for.
So, Arvind, let me ask you, how do you then break down some of those barriers, you know, especially in, for instance, your brand communication, your marketing activities? How do you break down those barriers at every touch point, at every point in that consumer's journey?
Here is a customer who's not really, I mean, who's nowhere really interacting with the category, right? So, naturally, you're not going to be able to give them value propositions and tell them that, hey, you know, here is something that we could offer for you and do that. I mean, you have to be able to say something larger. I mean, clearly, because one is we were a new brand. We still are. We are only 2 years old. But we had to say that, look, we had to give them a brand promise, or rather tell them what the brand proposition is. A brand promise or a brand proposition is a bolder thing to do in many ways, because it forces you to calibrate your own organization. We're able to figure out how do we treat this customer and really give them what they want in a manner that we are able to provide to them. So, can we be more empathetic, but can we be fair to them? I think that's been the sort of the bedrock with which we've laid foundations of saying how we should be, you know, doing business with the Budget Bharat customer.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we've sort of got an insight into the sort of the Budget Bharat customer here. Now tell me, Jairam, where are you seeing that uptake happening in terms of, you know, the products that are working for you, the services that are working for you in the market, as well as the specific geographies where you are seeing this transformation happen in how these customers enter the category for the first time, for instance?
Yeah. So, the kind of segments that we are seeing are largely middle age, double income families with kids who are just growing up or kind of, you know, getting into higher schools or maybe just getting into college, you know, that kind of situation. So, imagine a set of parents who have been living in a small house, the dad's a driver and the mom runs a tea stall, a true family actually from Thane, right? The dad drives a bus for BST and the mom has a vada pav stall, right, in Thane, right? So, that's a couple. They live in a really small kind of, it's not exactly a chawl, but kind of, right? It doesn't have personal bathrooms, and they want to move to a place which has a personal bathroom, right? And that's their motivation. But both of them earn, but neither of them earn enough to actually to make it on their own, right? So let me tell you one story. Recently, I met this auto rickshaw driver, right? He's been driving this rickshaw for 25 years, right? Somewhere along the way, he bought the rickshaw. Like first he used to run somebody else's or drive somebody else's. Now he owns it, right? And his wife works the field, right? And he does he drives the rickshaw. And his son is just graduating from college, and he has hopes that his son will get some kind of job. His son is studying to be an electrician or something. So he has hopes that his son will find a job with a contractor or something like that, and he has hopes that the son is will get married and the bahu will come home, right? And his house is not big enough for a bahu to come in, and that's why he's looking for something. This customer. Back to our thought on can hame loan kaun dega, his mental mindset is, when I met him, he told me, you know, साहब 3 दिन मैं ये चाय की दुकान पे खड़ा था पीरामल के सामने. So I didn't understand. I was like, what do you mean? He was like, no, I was just waiting here for somebody from Piramal to turn up that I could speak with. And I was like, why didn't you just go to the office and just tell them you require a loan? Then he started smiling sheepishly and said, nahi sir, wo main kaise kar sakta hu? So it's almost like they're not giving themselves permission to go in to even ask, right? And So he did that for 2 or 3 days till he found somebody wearing a Piramal t-shirt coming to the tea stall, and he was like, now's my moment, right? And he spoke with the guy.
Over a cup of tea.
Oh, yes, exactly. Now, and here's another interesting part of the story. So our staff, whoever must have been there, so he heard the story and was like, हाँ सर हम आपका करा के देंगे. So then our staff, while he was going, he paid for both of their tea, right? This customer was so touched by that. He was like, sir, उसने मेरे भी चाय के पैसे दिए. So it's like he was not, the basic kind of human level connection. This customer was not expecting that from a financial institution. He doesn't expect that. He expects to be treated poorly, and when he just gets treated like a human, you know, it overwhelms them. It's an incredible statement on how we as formal financial services providers have spoken with this audience for all these years.
So Arvind, tell me a little bit about, you know, how do you sort of, how in your marketing activities, and you can even touch upon sort of the retail strategy that you have, which is a high-tech, high-touch strategy. Before I ask Jairam the same question, tell me a little bit about, you know, this sort of that human element. How important is that even in your marketing initiatives, or how you approach and talk to this customer? Give me a little bit of an insight into what you're doing there.
One of the things we consciously took as a decision was to be able to show our customers without a filter. We said that we've got to be authentic to the people we serve, and we've got to remain absolutely clear and honest about how we speak about them and how we portray them. So that was one big decision.
It's an important point. Like, so in our advertising,
Yeah.
you went to actual chawls where our customers live, right? And
Yeah.
you shot there.
Yeah.
You went to an actual
Lohar
ki dukaan.
Lohar ki dukaan
and,
in Samod in
you
Rajasthan, and we shot it there.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
And all the customer photographs that we use in all our communication,
Are real.
etc., are legit customers.
legit.
Right?
They're real
our
customers.
guys. There are no stock photos. There are no models. There's no brushed up work.
So it's 100% authentic. So I think that's the first call we took. We took that monadically. We didn't say that, hey, you know what, we want to be able to differentiate ourselves. We cared less about that as opposed to saying what our Karm Bhumi is and what we should be doing for this customer.
Not just optics.
It's not just optics.
A narrative.
How do we walk the talk, like really? I mean, if we've taken that up as a promise, then how do we do that?
Key here is that customers like the ones that we spoke about are unlikely to go by themselves to your website or to your app on the Play Store and apply for credit. Like that auto rickshaw driver that we spoke about, who's buying his first 1 BHK house after decades of working, it's unlikely that he is going to go to some website and start applying. Like, it's just, so much of his emotion is vested in that house that he's thinking of buying, that he requires high involvement. He wants to have that conversation. So you got to have that high touch. It's impossible to not have it. However, the problem is that by itself is very hard to scale. Lots of NBFCs traditionally have tried it. You do very well in a city or in a state, but try that same model in a different place where you don't have trusted staff, etc., and it doesn't work, and you're not able to scale it. To scale it, you do require technology. You require all these ML models underneath, which are looking at all sorts of data sources, making decisions of what's good, what's bad. Technology that's telling your credit guy at the front line, go ask the customer this question, because this question is very relevant for this customer profile, right? So even if my credit guy in a different part of the country is actually less experienced, I know that I'm going to get a standardized set of information because my machine is going to guide my staff appropriately and tell them what to look for, right? So that's this idea of high tech plus high touch, which we believe creates this scalable model of empathy.
When it comes to your content marketing, in terms of what you do either with influencers or your own content, and the sort of the educational work that has to go into it to again break those barriers. Tell me a little bit about that strategy. What's happening there? Because like I said, he's not going to your website, he's probably going to YouTube, right?
Yeah, or he's probably being sent a YouTube link on WhatsApp.
There you go.
That's exactly what's happening, right? So what we really do and this is a big lacuna there, because we've got our customers who inherently don't approach financial institutions, and on top of that, finance is muddled in a lot of jargon, right? And
It's
while
overwhelming.
it needs
anxiety.
democratization.
Yes, absolutely.
So we said, how can we democratize this? So really our philosophy of what we do on our influencer marketing or social media is just clearly saying, how can we democratize this? How can we take this to Bharat? Again, it's about going back and saying, this is our Karam Bhumi. We need to be able to walk the talk. So how are we able to do that at every step of the way? So the way we do this is, for instance, we have regional influencers. We have content so we have 2 pieces of content that goes out every week from some regional influencer. All right, you'll find somebody from, let's say, Khanna in Ludhiana, or you'll find somebody from, let's say, I don't know, Warangal, right, who's putting out a piece of content. But we took a conscious choice to work with smaller influencers because even influencer marketing is going through a big change, right? You've got the large influencers who are now being seen more as mini celebrities. So in a way, we want people who are able to connect, because that's what we do. I mean, we said, hey, why should it be any different when it comes to influencer marketing? We should find people who's either the boy or the girl next door, who's able to go and have that little conversation and literally tell them, hey, you know what, why is your CIBIL score important, or why is your credit score important, and how do you need to maintain it? Something as simple as that. Or saying, hey, how do you prevent yourself from being frauded online, right? Or when should you go ahead and take a loan? How do you calculate your EMI? Things like that, right? So just content that's being disseminated out of a lot of these small micro influencers who we've taken on board, and we've been doing that for about a year now.
And what sort of engagement are you seeing on that? And quickly, let me just also ask you, with your media mix, for instance, while you're doing social media, what else is happening, whether it's TV or print? What does your media mix look like right now?
Interestingly, in this category, this is not an always-on category when it comes to above the line. I would owe that to the fact that a lot of the vintage of the brands that are in the market already, they're sitting on a massive ad stock and really even on spontaneous awareness and consideration, right? But for us, it's been that conscious choice. So we do have some science that we've applied to saying, how much do we need to be on which medium? But clearly, we are one of those brands that want to be more on ground, and while yes, ATL is important, but certainly more on ground, and you'll see that in a way in the way we market ourselves, because our it's not like our markets are media dark, but the fact that we need to be able to get to as close to the customer as we can. So we want to be extremely segmental about it, and we want to be able to make sure that we're pretty hyper local about the way we go about our marketing.
So one of the things that we do is, while we love TV and it gets us a lot of reach, but we also like a lot of outdoor. We like radio. We like
bus stops,
bus stop
railway
things.
stations.
Yeah, railway station announcements.
paintings.
We do all sorts of things, because that's where we believe Bharat lives, right? So that little announcement that happens at a bus stop, which says "Agli bus yahan se aa rahi hai," and then it's followed by a little kind of line, which is actually an ad. We are there, right? We don't have any hang-ups about, oh, my brand is so precious, I can't put it on a wall, right? Because people might deface it. Because many kind of storied institutions take that call, saying, oh my God, no, somebody's going to pee on that wall, or somebody's going to put a poster on top of it, or a political poster, and my brand is too precious to be associated.
And then it just goes on social media after that.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a life of its own.
Exactly. So all those worries are there. We don't take that much load about this stuff, right? We are quite okay. We are okay to put a doorstop with our brand on it, or put a wall painting, or do this bus stop announcement thing, etc. Because honestly, that's where our customer is. That's where our customer is. Our customer is not living this charmed life where everything is clean and you can frame your brand and your logo in a really neat kind of super clean environment, because there is no such environment in which my customer exists. So I have to rough it out, and that requires you to actually go out of the most mainstream kind of media and do some of these. We also do some interactive stuff. You want You want to talk a little bit about the Nukkad Natak thing that you
Oh,
tried?
yeah,
and all that?
absolutely. So we've got this whole thing format that we call a Nukkad Natak, which basically involves 5 or 6 actors, and they're all extremely regional. It's to the language, where they go out and in, let's say, in a market area or in a residential area where people sort of congregate, they tend to do a small little natak about financial education, or mix that up with what we try to do as our sort of our core brand promise, and that's called niyat, right? So so we've kind of tried to weave that in, and we do this in different markets. So imagine this is happening in Unnao, Kheri, Raebareli, small districts in the country, and it's a big hit. I mean, we have YouTube videos that we've seen of people taking videos of that and posting it online and tagging us. So that's pretty incredible. I mean, when you think about it,
that's word of mouth, right? At the end of the
Yeah.
day, and content that you're seeing there, when it's passed on as something shareable.
Yeah.
That's a very interesting strategy. But I'm going to zoom out from what you're talking about, and quickly, my last question to you, of course, because you mentioned, this large swaths of people underserved. And we're also seeing that kind of transformation happening in other areas. I'll just sort of segue here into something like the IPL. And what we saw last year was a democratization of viewership, right? With free streaming of IPL on JioCinema, for instance. And so we saw that market really open up. So let me now then come to you, because we've seen this entire sort of new sort of viewership coming in, or an expansion of the viewership. Would that fit in well with what Piramal is doing going forward? Are you looking at the IPL as some sort of part of your mix on digital?
I won't reveal our specific media plan strategy here, but let me say this. Your point is right that IPL has gotten a lot more broad-based, and I think the streaming, the free streaming, massively changes the game. A lot of our customers are like, if your driver has come and dropped you at work before you leave now, till that time he's in the parking lot downstairs streaming, right? And that driver is our customer. You unfortunately are not, but you probably make too much money. But the
Say that on air, will you?
but your driver very much is our customer, right? So he might not have been able to afford to see IPL on a paid TV channel because he neither has the time nor the money to actually do that. But when it's getting streamed, right, he's going to watch it, right?
There's mobility, accessibility.
Exactly, exactly. At his workplace, which is essentially the parking lot, he can actually still consume that media, right? And that provides opportunities for marketers like us, who work with brands which are trying to reach these customers that are otherwise hard to reach because they're always working. They have very little leisure time, right? And so how do we reach them at their workplace, right? And free streaming, particularly of large sports events which have universal appeal, is always going to be a big part of that.
And maybe the one thing that I'd add over there is the context in that conversation on saying, how do we stay true to ourselves and still be able to put out? It's not like, running a piece of advertising over there is going to do much. Yeah, of course. I mean, we kind of needed that in year one, so we did it. But I think as we go along the way, maybe the one Easter egg I'd leave with is the fact that we probably need the conversation to be a little more contextual. So even if you're trying to do, let's say, cricket, then we might just
you want to do. I hear you.
Well, that's a great note to end our conversation on. Thank you so much for your time, Jairam. Arvind, it was great chatting with you.
Thank you. It was awesome.
Thank you.
It was awesome.